There's absolutely no reason to lose any sleep worrying about potential retaliation from Diddy toward me or anyone close to me. Over the past several years, I've carefully implemented 3 foolproof safeguards that completely eliminate any chance of him ever getting the opportunity to come after us. To begin with, I personally reached out to the legal teams handling the cases for the victims and survivors. The real reason he's facing an extended stay behind bars isn't solely the high-profile criminal charges that everyone knows about. It's the numerous long-buried civil lawsuits that have been quietly building in the background for years. I stepped up by offering significant monetary assistance to 7 people who had chosen to remain silent for decades, and I also arranged for some of the most skilled and aggressive criminal defense attorneys in the country to represent them aggressively in court. On top of that, I spent the last 2 years methodically identifying, acquiring control over, or outright neutralizing every single business venture and partnership he had lined up as part of his planned comeback once he thought he'd be free again. By the time his trial concluded and sentencing arrived, where he might have harbored some hope of rebuilding, every one of those potential allies and investors had already backed away entirely, leaving nothing for him to return to. Finally, the material I control isn't merely evidence. It's secured with layers of redundant protections and backups to ensure it can never be destroyed or suppressed. This collection represents a massive archive of incriminating information that has remained concealed for the past 20 years. My dedicated team and I have painstakingly gathered and verified every detail of misconduct stretching back more than 3 decades, supported by direct, personal testimonies from those who suffered at his hands. We held extensive, detailed interviews with over a dozen victims whom he manipulated, threatened, coerced, or physically assaulted. Might this approach seem overly aggressive or extreme to some? Not in the slightest. He spent generations methodically destroying the lives, careers, and well-being of countless individuals without remorse. The only thing I've done is guarantee that he faces many additional years of incarceration as direct accountability for those actions. I feel zero concern about his remaining associates or any hollow threats he could attempt to make from inside prison walls. I'm well aware that, even in his current situation, he's likely still entertaining fantasies of some dramatic return to power and influence, but the harsh reality is undeniable. His time controlling and intimidating others in the industry has come to a permanent end.
But now, it's really hard for y'all to discern what's real and what's true, you know? And I've been seeing y'all memes and stuff. People be making memes. I see the memes. I see them now. Some of that stuff is funny. Some of it's funny. But I haven't addressed any of this publicly, but I just want to say this very clearly. I don't have to do with Puffy, so y'all can stop all them memes. I can stop all of that. I ain't been nowhere near no damn freak off. Listen, I do enough of my own. Don't be putting me in other people.
Over the course of many decades, several of the biggest and most influential figures in the entertainment world operated with an almost impenetrable layer of protection surrounding their personal conduct and decisions. It wasn't as if the rumors never spread or that obvious warning signs weren't there for everyone to notice. Plenty of people saw them, but the potential consequences of openly confronting that shield were viewed as far too severe to risk. In the present moment, however, with 50 Cent's impactful and widely discussed documentary now leading the conversation, that long-standing culture of enforced secrecy is at last beginning to fracture and give way. This shift isn't being driven by unsubstantiated claims, sensational speculation, or disorganized information drops. Instead, it's rooted in rigorous investigative work, solid structuring of facts, and compelling, irrefutable proof. As renewed public and legal scrutiny continues to focus intensely on Diddy once more, following his recent conviction and ongoing appeal efforts, and as indirect questions and associations begin pointing toward other prominent names like Will Smith, a far more profound and troubling underlying reality is starting to surface. The behaviors and patterns that were concealed for so many years weren't genuinely unknown or invisible to insiders. They were actively rendered off-limits and untouchable through a broad, shared commitment to looking
Made it
the other
unreachable.
way.
Dating J-Lo, Will Smith and Jada tried to pick her up on a threesome and you were going to beat up Will Smith. Is that true?
You really heard that? Nah.
What? Yeah, I watched it on the internet. You're telling me I can't believe everything I read?
What? I don't know what you're talking about.
What?
Yeah. Here we go. For years, the entertainment industry in Hollywood honed a primary method for navigating crises: remain completely silent, preserve key relationships and networks, and simply allow media and public focus to drift toward whatever new trend or story emerges next. This deliberate and calculated approach to handling controversy effectively maintained vast amounts of power and influence, enabling major scandals to gradually disappear from view without ever requiring direct acknowledgement or resolution. But in the wake of recent developments, including Diddy's trial outcome, his current incarceration, and the release of detailed exposés, that long-standing tactic has reached its expiration point. The arrival of 50 Cent's comprehensive documentary series coincides perfectly with a cultural turning point where simply staying quiet and compliant is no longer a sustainable option, and evading true accountability has finally become untenable for those involved.
Should have never slapped Chris. I'm not watching the movie. Not happening.
You don't understand. Do you understand why he slapped Chris? Did you see in that moment from probably what he was dealing with?
What was he dealing with? What the f was he dealing with?
Something made him slap his brother, man.
No, something didn't make him snap anything. He laughed at that bad joke that Chris said like everybody else. And then Jada looked at him and it was like the Manchurian Candidate.
Not the Manchurian. Now, I have to ask before we get out, because I don't want to forget it. Your earrings just reminded me of Black Power, Black Excellence, and I just need your take on it, because Emancipation comes out in 1 hour. Came out December 9th, which is today's the 9th, right?
That's such a fucking below the belt fucking question.
No, but I just got
It's the only below the belt question that you've asked, because you already know what's gonna happen. Don't front. We've been down there. Fuck Will Smith.
No, wait.
He can kiss my ass.
Wait.
He should have never slapped Chris. I'm not watching the movie.
Damn it.
It's not happening.
You don't understand. Do you understand why he slapped Chris? Did you see in that moment from probably what he was dealing with?
What was he dealing with?
Shit, I don't know.
What the fuck was he dealing with?
Something made him slap his brother, man.
No, something didn't make him snap anything. He laughed at that badass joke that Chris said like every fucking body else. And then Jada looked at him and it was like the Manchurian Candidate.
Not the Manchurian. Not the Manchurian. God damn it.
That's what the fuck happened.
I thought there's a legion of women who said, I'm glad for Will fighting for his woman.
Yeah, because they still want to believe that that sham of a fucking marriage is real.
Oh. Well, there you go.
He ain't never going to be Tupac, and she proved it when she fucked August Alsina.
Ooh, man. Yeah.
They're both bisexual. They do weird things in their house, and young men have left their house fucking screaming to get away from them in their mentorship. Meek Mills. Bashir Gray.
By reframing the public eye opts for a no-comment response, it often functions as a meaningful declaration all on its own, redirecting the entire dialogue toward a more probing perspective. How these intentional periods of quiet served not merely as short-term pauses, but as robust, nearly unbreakable barriers against scrutiny. In an industry ecosystem that has historically relied heavily on coordinated evasion and avoidance to keep operating smoothly, the choice by any individual to finally step forward and speak openly carries enormous weight. It's far from a neutral act, as it fundamentally disrupts long-standing power dynamics and fragile balances. If collective silence possessed such formidable strength and influence for so many years, then its eventual erosion and breakdown compels us to confront the most difficult and unavoidable inquiry: precisely what kinds of damaging secrets, abuses, and unethical practices was that widespread quiet actively shielding and enabling during all that time?
It all started, we was in Atlanta. And this story starts when I'm with Puff and he's in the exotic bookstores and he's doing shopping, right? He's shopping, getting his stuff and everything like that. So, you know, this is the first time I was ever in an exotic bookstore with Puff. So, you know, I'm giving him his space. He's taking things off the shelves and stuff like that because they gave him a brown paper bag. When they gave him a brown paper bag, he was just putting stuff in there. So I said, damn, you know, he got to go put it on the counter and, you know, show everybody what he's getting. So as he's going, I'm just looking at the
places where he picking stuff from. So there's one part he picked up some things from up here on my left side. And then he picked like quite a few of them down. I'm like, okay. He put them in the bag. So when I went by there and I looked up there and it said butt plugs. And I was like, hey, yo. I was messing with him. Because people don't understand, you know, we was like friends. He was a part of them. So I'm still going to tease him. I'm still going to mess with him and everything like that. I could do that. It wasn't just no security thing. So I say, yo, what are you getting this for? And it said butt plugs. And he was like, yo, can I do my shopping by myself? I said, yeah, you could do it by yourself, brother. And he started walking and everything like that. So when he got I just waited at the counter. So when he got to the counter, he didn't even have to show the guy nothing. He just gave the guy a wad of money. I mean, like he gave the guy a stack something like this. And Puff wasn't the dude that carried no 20s and no 50s and nothing like that. And I mean, like he just said, boom. And we walked out the store. So we had to leave Atlanta and go to North Carolina for a show. You understand? And it was him, this rapper, Sarah, and this other girl. We all got on a G5 jet, and we flew to G4 jet, and we flew to North Carolina. So
the elements that managed to stay concealed from broader accountability weren't limited to isolated, one-off controversial events. Rather, they involved deeply ingrained and recurring cycles of misconduct that persisted across multiple years and situations. Personal relationships that sparked legitimate concerns were frequently minimized and excused as simple advantages or indulgences tied to celebrity status. Repeated associations with problematic incidents or environments were casually dismissed as nothing more than unfortunate coincidences. Diddy's overarching authority and influence were consistently evident and on display for observers, yet they almost never prompted thorough, meaningful challenges beyond superficial admiration for his accumulated wealth, industry connections, and public success. As time passed, the sheer familiarity and normalization of these dynamics gradually eroded any sense of urgency or outrage, allowing dubious behaviors to fade seamlessly into the routine landscape of high-profile celebrity life. This phenomenon extends well past any single set of accusations. It exposes a broader systemic culture within entertainment that routinely reframed unacceptable actions as inevitable or standard. Troubling patterns only seem to vanish when they're consistently repackaged and accepted as simply the nature of the business. The most persistent and disconcerting question that lingers is this: how many instances of serious wrongdoing continue to go unaddressed today purely because the entire industry has conditioned participants and observers alike to view them as commonplace and unremarkable? Genuine, sustained power almost never exists or thrives in complete isolation. It depends on intricate webs of close associations and proximity to flourish effectively. Individuals who manage to position themselves nearest to the core of influence tend to quietly reap substantial rewards, including elevated status, exclusive opportunities, and layers of informal protection, while those further removed often end up absorbing disproportionate risks and consequences. Within this kind of hierarchical structure, the decision to maintain clear boundaries or distance from particular powerful figures rarely happens by pure chance or vague intuition. It's typically a conscious, strategic move designed primarily for personal preservation and risk management.
Normal. They were in the room and they would go in the room with another couple, right? And I've seen some things happen in the jacuzzi. Like when I'm the only one could go to the room 9 times out of 10. When Puff was the one who, you know, was in the presidential suite, I'm the only one allowed. I got to watch the door. No one can get into that door. I'm the only one that had the pass key or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And then sometimes you would hear a boom, 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 a thump or whatever the situation is and stuff like that. Yo, what's up? Everything good? And sometimes they would open the door. I'm right there by the door. Sometimes you see things you don't want to see.
Hey, did they ever try to get you involved? Or
not at all.
Offer you?
Not at all. Puff did it one time, but that's in my book. When he was coming from Dallas, he had the snow bunnies. And I reneged on that. Nah, I'm good.
Hey, did you see any celebrities Puffy did any of that stuff with, the swinger stuff with?
Yeah, I did.
Tell me about that.
I think I told you about that. One time, him and somebody, him, Sarah, and this young girl flew from Atlanta. And they, and flying from Atlanta, we had this artist with us, right? And we were staying in the presidential suite at the hotel. And this particular artist and Puff, they told me, don't let nobody come in the room. So I said, all right, cool. So I propped my chair by the room.
Power almost.
The closer an individual gets to a central hub of immense power and resources, the steeper the ultimate price becomes for voicing critical concerns or challenging the status quo at an early stage. When proximity to that inner circle delivers quick and tangible benefits such as career boosts, exclusive access, rapid advancement, and networking advantages, while any negative repercussions are delayed for years or even decades, the fundamental issue goes beyond mere unfortunate timing. At its core, it's about the unequal distribution of burdens. Certain people enjoy prolonged protection and rewards, only for others, often those with less leverage, to shoulder the majority of fallout and accountability when the public narrative eventually shifts and demands for justice
Movie
finally
Emancipation,
intensify.
how the fuck you gonna play in a movie called Emancipation and you can't emancipate yourself?
Ooh. Bars.
Cause you trapped in a hole. My nigga, you trapped in a hole. This bitch clowning you day after day after day after day. And once again, I hate saying these things because their children are dope. But Jaden's kind of MIA. And considering that he emancipated from their household at 16 and refused to come back, even to do family interviews. You know?
Yeah.
Willow's just kind of, she's dope. Too much shit happened in that fucking house. Too much shit happened in that fucking house. And meanwhile, I go to jail for defending my child and these niggas don't even get a CPS fucking visit for the kind of shit they kids see.
Yeah.
You know?
There you go.
So yeah, I'll watch the movie when, I'll watch Emancipation when he emancipates himself from the hell that he lives in, that he tries to call marriage with that woman who still wished Tupac was alive. But enjoy the film. Buy lots of popcorn. I ain't supporting shit he fucking do. He's a bad representation for black men. He is literally the epitome of a ballless man. I'm sick and tired of people making our black men look weak. I'm sick and tired of that shit because I don't know no nigga that would put up with the shit that bitch done put him through. Now, you could justify staying because you ain't want to cut up the money because she would have got the child support and the alimony, but the kids is grown. So if you staying now, it's either because you being blackmailed to stay or you too lazy to go. He housebroken. That don't fit right for a Philly nigga. But he did grow up in Overbrook, though. He didn't technically grow up in West Philly. That was Jazzy Jeff's life he was writing about. He lived over there, not far from where Kobe Bryant grew up. That's the other side of City Avenue. He came up Overbrook, so they had big houses and he wasn't at the playground, get beat up. That was Jazzy Jeff.
The near self.
Will Smith's most recent statements publicly separating himself from any association with Diddy represent a notable evolution from his previous pattern of cautious, minimal responses, transforming into explicit and purposeful efforts to establish firm boundaries. In the intensely scrutinized and fast-moving media environment of today, especially following high-profile trials and documentaries, issuing a straightforward denial holds considerably more significance than a routine defense. It actively communicates that unfounded rumors and linkages have ventured into territory that's no longer tolerable. Presented in a composed, direct manner aimed at the general audience, such statements effectively create clear separation without provoking unnecessary escalation or direct confrontation. Nevertheless, Nonetheless, the specific timing of these declarations carries its own implications. When they only materialize after an extended period of quiet has itself become a potential source of suspicion or liability, it naturally invites deeper scrutiny regarding the genuine risks and costs associated with addressing issues proactively, long before strategic caution turns into the riskier
So
and
I'm
more
gonna get into
burdensome
this
choice.
Diddy documentary that's been going on, man. It's still number one as far as I know, man. I mean, I don't know how many millions of times this thing has been streamed, but this thing it's kind of crazy how big this thing actually is, you know, because us that's been following for a really long time, you know, kind of heard a lot of the stuff, man, but people are still going crazy for it, man. So what was your first reaction when you first seen it?
When I first seen it, I said, damn, they stole my whole damn idea. You understand? Because I was talking to the producers and before I talked to the executive director and the producers knew, I was telling them what I was bringing to the table because I was trying to get a deal for me, Kirk, and Tim all together, like a package deal. I wanted to try to get like $50,000 for each.
Will Smith's public
A professionally executed, in-depth documentary has the power to fundamentally reshape and elevate public and industry conversations on controversial topics. By systematically compiling scattered reports, historical timelines, eyewitness accounts, and contextual details into a unified, chronological framework supported by verifiable sources, 50 Cent's project successfully pivots the broader discourse away from fragmented rumors and speculation toward a foundation of documented facts and historical record. The intent here isn't to deliver subjective moral verdicts. Rather, it's to realign collective attention and priorities, compelling both entertainment professionals and the wider audience to seriously grapple with long-standing questions. Why were certain essential inquiries and red flags consistently overlooked or downplayed for years, while less substantial distractions were permitted to dominate attention and then fade quietly into the background?
I told them what we was bringing to the table, who was going to tell the story, how they was going to tell their story. You know, I didn't know exactly what they were going to say, but I knew Tim grew up with Puff, so he can get the childhood thing. So I'm going and telling them the whole angle in which I would like for this to go. You know what I'm saying? What we was bringing to the table. I didn't know how they was going to do it, but I was saying, this is what we're going to bring to the table. Tim could start off with the childhood part of it because they grew up together. That's Tim Dog, Tim Patterson. Also, you know, he was the one who was working at Uptown. He was a executive over there, A&R and all that other stuff. He went to Island Records. He used to work with over there at Arista, the whole 9 yards. Tim is the one who had the Lost Boys. If you remember the Lost Boys,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying. Tim was the manager of them. That was his group and everything like that. So Tim had a lot of inside and a lot of stuff to do with Puff. I had a lot of other people I could have brought to the table too. Eddie F, who taught Puff how to work the board and everything like that. Just Eddie F, Heavy D, and the boys DJ. I was going to try to get Eddie and some other people like that. But it fell through because the lady was telling me what somebody else didn't give me or what somebody else didn't pay me. And she was being disrespectful. You know what I'm saying? I thought she was a white lady. I'm finding out she's a sister.
A documentary
Comprensiva, extended form investigative projects like this one directly confront an industry model that has long depended on the public's limited attention span and fleeting memory to weather and outlast major controversies. By persistently refusing to allow explosive or damaging narratives to dissipate according to the predictable, short-cycle pattern of media interest, thorough and persistent documentation effectively replaces quick dismissals and forgetfulness with enduring, accessible records that can't be easily erased. The central conflict in this space extends beyond debates over factual accuracy alone. It's fundamentally about authority and control, determining who retains the ultimate power to define and preserve the official, lasting historical narrative of events, and who has irrevocably forfeited the option to simply move on and rewrite or obscure uncomfortable truths from the past.
You know, Diddy has a long list of victims. You know, I mean, you got Cassie, Kurt Burrows, Shine, Little Rod, Mark Curry. I mean, you know what I'm saying? The list goes on of all the people who he's did wrong. You know, out of all the people you've heard of and all the stories that you heard and the stuff that you know about, you know, who do you think is like Diddy's biggest victim?
Who I think Diddy's biggest victim is?
Yep.
The mothers.
Okay.
Big's mama. Wolf's mother. The people that lost their sons. They could never get that back. Especially with those those are the two people that changed his life. Put him on that pedestal to be a great producer. So I believe the mothers in them that lost their sons are the biggest victims of it all.
Man, that's deep, man. That's crazy, man. You know, because I mean, you know, you brought up Big and the mom, and in the documentary they even talk about Diddy not paying for the funeral, acting like he's gonna pay it, but then billing it to Biggie. What was your thoughts on that? When you seen that, were you surprised when you seen that?
No, I wasn't surprised, you know, because they said that when Big died, he built the estate. He took it out of Big's his budget. You understand what I'm saying? So I wonder who got the life insurance policy. It was crazy.
What's up? This is Cam Capone. We got more content like this coming soon, so hit that like button, subscribe, and stay locked in to Cam Capone News.
Long-form investigation.
The starkly contrasting ways in which different figures face intense public and legal examination reveal the deeply uneven nature of accountability mechanisms within the entertainment world. While some individuals encounter swift, severe repercussions and permanent career damage from allegations, others manage to sustain considerable shielding through long-standing reputations, accumulated achievements, or strategically cultivated alliances. The heightened focus currently directed at Diddy amid his conviction, sentencing, and active appeal, alongside the peripheral speculation occasionally extending to figures like Will Smith, demonstrates how protective barriers often operate as inherent components of the overall system, rather than sporadic instances of preferential treatment. This pattern doesn't necessarily indicate coordinated conspiracies. Instead, it reflects the logical results of long-standing structural biases and incentives. Furthermore, when meaningful consequences and justice only emerge after traditional methods of silence and deflection have lost their effectiveness, it forces a direct and uncomfortable reckoning. Can any operational framework that systematically postpones or unevenly applies accountability for such prolonged periods ever legitimately present itself as truly equitable,
Get right into it. Diddy, he got indicted. You called it, man. A few weeks ago, you was on the platform and you said that he was going to get arrested in September.
Yeah, man. Anybody who in law enforcement or people know the law, when Homeland Security ran up into his house, people would tell you, or people knew that it was just a matter of time that they was going to indict him and bring him in to see the judge, bro. It was just a matter of time. I just figured out with the grand jury and their different sessions and stuff like that, and then what one of the witnesses told me, I just figured it out that it was going to be around September that they were going to bring him in, bro. People might not understand. It's difficult when you see a brother that has so much promise become an icon as far as in the music business and stuff that he did, to turn around and, just tear his whole life down. But it's all because of his mentors and the people that trained him and taught him the music business. You know, it's all about the people who trained and taught him the music business, because Puff wasn't, he wasn't born a monster. You know what I'm saying? He was made into a monster, brother. Do you understand what I'm saying? He was made into a monster from the stuff that happened to him, the things that he had to do. You understand? The things that he had to do to become who he is. You know what I'm saying? You know, it's like this, brother. You never like something so much that you can't do without, and you never be willing to do anything to get where you want to be at. You got to have principles. You got to have morals. You got to keep with that stuff. And in that music business, a lot of that stuff get thrown out the window. You understand? And that's what happened to him. He started doing the things to other people that was done to him. To keep it frank, he was doing the things to other people that was done to him. And it is what it is. You got to know better. And if you know better, you will do better. When he was in New York City, he was like that gecko from the Geico commercial. Then he turned and started going, when he lived in Cali and Miami, he turned into Godzilla. I would see him talk about how he using drugs. He was never like that. Smoking cigarettes, smoking weed and everything like that. He turned into something that you could consider a monster, bruh. Then he started doing things to people. You understand?
Interview Jedenaście. Within the entertainment industry, silence is seldom a passive or coincidental occurrence. It's frequently a behavior that's deliberately promoted, incentivized, and richly compensated. Opportunities for professional growth and stability are closely tied to demonstrations of loyalty, reliable access to networks, and the maintenance of calm, uninterrupted environments, whereas any expression of disagreement or challenge typically triggers swift repercussions like marginalization, forfeited prospects, and social or professional ostracism. The recent documentary illuminates how this culture of compliant quiet transformed into a highly valued asset, one that individuals could exchange for long-term career protection while being safeguarded by the looming possibility of sudden disruption or fallout. When the act of speaking truth or raising concerns consistently puts one's livelihood and position within the industry at serious risk, choosing restraint emerges as not just reasonable, but often the most pragmatic and survival-oriented path forward. And if openness and candor routinely jeopardize one's ability to succeed or even remain active in the field, the profound and inescapable concluding question becomes impossible to avoid. To what extent was the entire ecosystem of Hollywood and the music business ever genuinely intended or structured to prioritize authentic transparency and ethical accountability in the first place?